On paper, they were blockbusters. At the box office, they were triumphs. But in the history of superhero cinema, will they be remembered as anything more than a fluke? This is the Venom paradox. Two films that made over $1 billion combined, yet are largely dismissed by critics and hardcore fans alike. So did they actually fail? The question of whether the Venom movies failed is a fascinating study in cinematic dissonance. To the casual observer, the franchise comprising Venom, 2018, and Venom Let There Be Carnage, 2021, appears to be a resounding commercial success. The first film grossed over $856 million worldwide against a $100 million budget, and the sequel added another $506 million. Yet the critical consensus and the film's cultural legacy are starkly different. The failure of the Venom movies is not one of box office receipts, but of artistic ambition, narrative coherence, and a fundamental misunderstanding of the source material's core appeal. Their failure is a failure to transcend their own bizarre, tonally confused conception, leaving them as expensive, high-profile curiosities rather than respected entries in the superhero canon. Phase 1 failure, a tonally schizophrenic foundation. The initial and most glaring failure of the Venom franchise lies in its catastrophic identity crisis. The character of Venom, especially in his definitive modern portrayal from the 1990s comics and the beloved spectacular Spider-Man animated series, is a horror-tinged tragedy. Eddie Brock is a deeply flawed man whose self-righteousness and rage find perfect, destructive synergy with an alien symbiote that amplifies aggression and hatred. Their union is a dark reflection of the superhero ideal, born from a mutual loathing of Spider-Man. The 2018 film, directed by Ruben Fleischer, systematically strips away this core. It transforms the symbiote from a corrupting, addictive force into a quirky, misunderstood roommate. The horror elements are reduced to generic, weightless CGI action. Instead of a tragic descent, Eddie's Tom Hardy journey is a comedic odd couple narrative. While Hardy's committed, physically chaotic performance and his improvised banter with the symbiote provided moments of entertainment, it came at the expense of the character's essence. The film couldn't decide if it wanted to be a body horror thriller, a superhero blockbuster, or a buddy comedy, and in trying to be all three, it succeeded at none. This tonal failure was compounded by a painfully weak script. The villain, Carlton Drake/Riot, Riz Ahmed, is a forgettable, cliched tech bro with a poorly defined plan. The plot is a predictable series of chases and confrontations, devoid of genuine suspense or emotional stakes. The decision to completely excise Spider-Man from Venom's origin story, a narrative move necessitated by complicated rights issues between Sony and Marvel, left a void that the film could not fill. It attempted to make Venom an anti-hero from the outset without earning that transition, robbing the character of his most defining relationship and his foundational narrative purpose. The film failed to justify its own existence beyond being a rights retention vehicle for Sony. Phase 2 failure, doubling down on flaws and narrative stagnation. Rather than course-correcting, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, directed by Andy Serkis, interpreted the first film's few accidental successes, namely the Hardy symbiote dynamic, as a blueprint and amplified them to absurd degrees. The sequel is shorter, leaner, and even more committed to its comedic premise. While this made for a more focused, if insubstantial film, it represented a deeper failure to engage with the property's potential. The sequel's greatest sin is its treatment of Cletus Kasady and Carnage. In the comics, Carnage is the Joker to Venom's Batman, an agent of pure, chaotic, nihilistic violence. He is a horror icon, a serial killer whose bonding with the symbiote creates an apocalyptic threat. The film reduces him to a petulant man-child, Woody Harrelson, with a bland gothic love story. The promised Carnage is rendered as bloodless, weightless CGI tentacles in a murky final battle. The horror is sanitized for a PG-13 rating, stripping the villain of his entire raison d'etre. This was a catastrophic creative failure, taking one of Marvel's most genuinely terrifying villains and making him no more threatening than any generic alien monster. Furthermore, the narrative stagnation is evident. The plot revolves around yet another dysfunctional couple, Eddie/Venom, Cletus/Shriek, and another symbiote confrontation in a third-act CGI tower of goo. The film does little to develop Eddie's character or the world around him in a meaningful way. Its primary function seems to be setting up a future connection to the Marvel Cinematic Universe via a mid-credits scene, tacitly admitting that its own universe lacks sufficient compelling material. The movies failed to build a sustainable world. They are merely holding patterns for their protagonist. The meta-failure, legacy, and cultural impact. Beyond the screen, the Venom movies fail in their lasting cultural impact. Successful superhero franchises generate passionate fandoms, inspire critical analysis, and leave a watermark on the genre. The Venom films have generated memes, primarily about Tom Hardy's bizarre line deliveries,
like a turd in the wind,
but little enduring reverence. They are discussed as guilty pleasures or baffling anomalies, not as landmark films. This failure is underscored by the contrast with the contemporary superhero landscape. In the same period, Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, 2018, redefined animated storytelling, and the MCU continued to weave complex, long-form narratives. The Venom films, by refusing to commit to a genuine tone, be it mature horror or earnest adventure, occupy a no man's land. They are too silly for adults seeking substance and too darkly jarring in their violence-like concept for young children. They failed to carve out a unique, defensible artistic niche. Venom, The Last Dance was not merely a disappointing sequel, it was a catastrophic endpoint that retroactively exposed the entire trilogy as a corporate shell game. Rather than offering the redemption or course correction the franchise desperately needed, it served as a definitive autopsy, hammering the final nails into a coffin long in the making. Here's how it accomplished that grim task. The core failure was always the dilution of Venom's tragic, horror-tinged essence into a buddy comedy. The Last Dance took this to its logical, vapid conclusion. The Eddie-Venom relationship, stripped of all tension, codependency, and dark synergy, became a sanitized, sitcom-level partnership. Any pretense of exploring themes of addiction, the shadow self, or monstrous identity, the rich vein you identified, was gone. In its place was empty bickering and sentimental declarations that felt utterly unearned. The film didn't just misunderstand Venom, it erased him, leaving a quippy CGI alien in his place. This final chapter proved the franchise never had any interest in the character's depth, only his marketable silhouette. The film's use of the multiverse was its most damning admission of failure. Instead of using the concept for a meaningful crossover, it employed it as a cheap narrative dead end. The much-hyped connection to the wider Marvel Cinematic Universe was resolved in a post-credit cameo that served as a deletion button, writing the character out of continuity with a wink. This wasn't a door opening, it was a chute disposing of an inconvenient property. It signaled that even the studio saw no viable future for this iteration, using the multiverse not to expand possibilities, but to contain the failure. The Last Dance was, effectively, sweeping the mess under the rug. In the end, Venom, The Last Dance didn't just put the franchise to rest, it locked the coffin, lowered it into the ground, and paved over the plot, serving as a perfect Hollywood case study. A trilogy that succeeded at everything except being good, and whose final chapter made that failure unmistakably, irrevocably final. But this is where the conversation starts for us. Do you see it as a tragic, missed opportunity, or a fun, messy ride that overstayed its welcome? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one, and the debate is the best part of this. Subscribing to Marvel and DC Connected is the single most powerful way you can shape this channel. It tells the algorithm you want more deep dive analyses, it fuels future videos, and it guarantees you won't miss our next breakdown.